Oh, yo, Clockwork Orange, Chapter 3. So, Chapter 3, Clockwork Orange. We vacated back townwards, my brothers, but just outside, not far from what they call the Industrial Canal, we viddied the fuel needle had like collapsed, like our own ha-ha-ha needles had, and the autos was coughing, casual, casual, casual. Not to worry over much, though, because a rail station kept flashing blue, on, off, just near. The point was whether to leave the auto to be soberated by the roses or us feeling like in a hate and murder mood to give it a fair tall cock into the starry waters for a nice heavy loud blast before the death of the evening. This latter we decided on, so we got out and the brakes off, all four tall cocked it to the edge of the filthy water that was like treacle mixed with human whole products. Then one good horror show tall cock, and in she went. We had to dash back for fear of the filth splashing on our platties, but splush and glope she went down in lovely. Farewell, old droog, called Georgie and Dim, obliged with the clowny great guff. Ha 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 ha. Then we made for the station to ride the one stop to center, as the middle of the town was called. We paid our fares nice and polite and waited gentlemanly quiet on the platform. Old Dim filling with the slot machines, his carmines being full of small Malenki coin and ready if need be to distribute chalk bars to the poor and starving, though there was none such about. And then the old espresso rapido came lumbering in and we climbed aboard. The train looking to be near empty. To pass a 3-minute ride, we filled about with what they called the upholstery, doing some nice horse show, tearing out of the seats guts, and old Dim chaining the okno till the glass cracked and sparkled in the winter air. But we were all feeling that bit shagged and fagged and fashed, it having been an evening of some small energy expenditure. My brother's only Dim, like the clowny animal he was, full of the joys of, but looking all dirtied over and too much vaughn of sweat on him, which was one thing I had against old Dim. We got out of the center and walked slow back to the Karova milk bar, all going yah, Malenki bit, and exhibiting to moon and star and lamplight our back feelings, because we were still only growing mouth kicks and had school in the daytime, and when we got into the Karova, we found it fuller than when we'd left earlier on, but the Chalevek that had been burbling away in the land on White and Synthemesk or whatever was still on at it, going. Urchins of dead casts in the way ho high, glil, platonic time, weatherborn. It was probable that this was his third or fourth lot that evening, for he had that pale, inhuman look, like he'd become a thing, and like his litzel was really a piece of chalk carved. Really, if he wanted to spend so long in the land, he should have gone into one of the private cubbies at the back and not stayed in the big mezzo, because here's some of the malkickies would filly about with him a Malenki bit, though not too much, because there were powerful bruised boys hidden away in the old Karova who could stop any riot. Anyway, Dim squeezed in next to this Vec, and with his big clown's yop that showed his hanging grape, he stabbed this Vec's foot with his own large filthy sabag. But the Vec, my brothers, heard not, being now all above the body. It was nadsats, mostly milking and coking and filling around. Nadsats were what we used to call the teens, but there were a few of the more starry ones, Vex and Chinas alike, but not of the bourgeois, never them, laughing and gover-reading at the bar. Gover-reading. You could tell from their barberines and loose platties, big stringy sweaters mostly, that they'd been on rehearsal at the TV studios around the corner. The Davachkas among them had these very lively litzos and wide big rods, very red, showing a lot of teeth and smacking away and not caring about the wicked world one whit. And then the disc on the stereo twanged off and out with the Johnny Zavago, a rusky Koshka, singing only every other day. And in the like interval, the short silence before the next one came on, one of these Davachkas, very fair and with a big smiling red rot in her late 30s, I'd say, suddenly came with a burst of singing, only a bar and a half, and as though she was like giving an example of something they'd all been goverting about. And it was like for a moment, oh my brothers, some great bird had flown into the milk bar, and I felt all the time Malenki hairs on my plot standing endwise and the shivers crawling up like slow Malenki lizards and then down again, because I knew what she sang. It was from an opera by Friedrich Gitter's Fencer called Das Bedzug, and it was a bit where she's snuffing it with her throat cut, and the Slavos are better like this, maybe. Anyway, I shivered. But old damn, as soon as he'd slushy this old old dim, as soon as he'd slushy this dollop of song like a lump tick of red hot meat plunked on your plate, let off one of his vulgarities, which in this case was a lip trump followed by a dog howl, followed by two fingers pronging twice at the air, followed by clowny guffaw. I felt myself all of a fever and like drowning in red-hot blood, slushing and viddying Dim's vulgarity, and I said, "Bastard, filthy, drooling, mannerless bastard." Then I leaned across Georgie, who was between me and horrible Dim, and fisted Dim squarely on the rod. Dim looked very surprised, his rod open, wiping the gravy off of his goober with his rook, and in turn looking surprised at the red flowing gravy and at me. "What for did you do that for?" he said in his ignorant way. Not many viddied what I'd done, and those that viddied cared not. The stereo was on again and was playing a very electronic guitar vesh. I said, "For being a bastard with no manners and not the duck of an idea how to comport yourself public-wise, oh my brother." Dim put on a hound and horny look of evil, saying, "I don't like you should do what you had done then, and I'm not your brother no more and wouldn't want to be." He taken a big snotty tash took from his pocket and was mopping the red flow, puzzled, keeping on looking at its frownings as if he thought that blow was for other vex and not for him. It was like he was singing blood to make up for his vulgarity when that Devaka was singing music, but that Devaka was smacking away, ha ha ha, now with her droogs at the bar, her red rot working in her zoobies a shine, not having noticed Dim's filthy vulgarity. It was me, really. Dim had done wrong too, I said. "If you don't like this and you wouldn't want that, then you know what to do, little brother," Georgie said in a sharp way that made me look. "All right, let's not be starting. That's clean up to Dim," I said. "Dim can't go on all this Jeesney being as a little child." I looked sharp at Georgie, Dim said, and the red grovy was easing his flow now. "What natural right does he have to think he can give me orders and talk me whenever he likes? Yarbles is what I say to him, and I chain his glasses out soon as look." "Watch that," I said as quiet as I could, with the stereo bouncing all over and the wall ceiling and in the land vec beyond Dim getting loud now with this spark near autopitamate. And I said, "Do watch that, O Dim, if to continue to be on live thou dost wish. If to continue to be on live thou dost wish." "Yarbles," said Dim, sneering, "great bullshit, yar blockos to you. What you done then you had no right. I'll meet you with chain or knives or brief at any time, not having you aiming tall cocks at me reasonless. It stands to reason I won't have it." "A Nas scrap anytime you say," I snarled back. He said, "Oh, now don't, both of you malkicks, droogs, aren't we? It isn't right, droogs should behave this wise. See there are some loose-lipped malkicks over there smacking at us, leering like we mustn't let ourselves down." "Dim," I said, "has got to learn his place, right?" "Wait," said Georgie, "what's all this about place? This is the first I ever heard about looties learning their place." P said, "The truth is known, Alex, you shouldn't have given old Dim that uncalled for talk. I'll say it once and more. I say it with all respect, but if it had been me giving it to, you'd have to answer. I say no more." And he drawn his lips on his milk glass. I could feel myself getting all razzdazzed inside, but I tried to cover it, saying calm. "There has to be a leader discipline. There has to be, right?" None of them skezadded a word or nodded even. I got more raz inside. "Calm her out," I said. "Have been in charge long now. We all droogs, but somebody has to be in charge, right?" They all nodded wary like. Dim was who sushing the last of the grovy off. It was Dim who said now, Right, doobie doob, a bit tired, maybe everybody's best not to say more." I was surprised and just that Malenki bit pooty to sloosh Dim governing that wise. Dim said, "Bed ways is right ways now, so best we go home ways." "Right." I was very surprised. The other two nodded, going, right, I said. "You understand about the tokak on the rot, Dim? It was the music. See, I get all bazoomny when any vec interferes with the petitsa singing, as it might be like that again, like that then. Best we go off home ways and get a bit of spatchka," said Dim. "A long night for growing mouth kicks, right?" Right, nodded the other two, I said. "I think it's best we go home now. Dim has made a real horror show suggestion. If we don't meet day-wise, oh brothers, well then, same time, same place tomorrow." "Oh yes," said Georgie, "I think that can be arranged." "I might," said Dim, "be just that Malenki bit late, but same place and near same time tomorrow, surely." He was still wiping away at his goober, though, no Crowley float any longer now, and he said, "It's to be hoped there won't be no more of them singing patistas in here." Then he gave his old dim guff a clowny big ho 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 ho. It seemed like he was too dim to take much offense. So off we went our several ways, me belching arc on the cold coke. I repeated, I had my cutthroat Brifka handy in case any of Billy Boy's drugs should be around near the flat block waiting, or for that matter of any of the other bandas or grupas or shikas that come from time to time where I war with. The one where I lived was with my dada and mum in the flats of Municipal Flat Block 18A between Kingsley Avenue and Wilson's Way. I got to the big main door with no trouble, though I did pass one young malkick sprawling and creaking and moaning in the gutter, all cut and lovely, and saw on the lamplight also streaks of blood here and there like signatures, my brothers, of the night's filling. And two I saw just by 18A a pair of Davashkas, niching these doubtless rudely wrenched off in the heat of the moment, oh my brothers. And so in the alley was a good old municipal painting on the walls, Vax and Batistas very well developed, stern in the dignity of labor and workbench and machine, with not one stitch of platties on their well-developed plots. But of course, some of the malkicks living in 18A had, as was to be expected, embellished and decorated the said big painting with handy pencil and ballpoint, adding hair and stiff rods and dirty ballooning slavos out of the dignified rots of these Nagoya bear, that is, chinas and vex. I went to the lift, but there was no need to press the electric knopka to see if it was working or not, because it had been Dalcock real horror show this night. The metal doors all buckled, some feat of rare strength indeed, so I had to walk the 10 floors up. I cursed and painted and panted climbing, being tired in plot if not so much in brain. I wanted music very bad this morning, that singing of vodka and the Korova having perhaps started me off. I wanted music very bad this evening. I wanted like a big feast of it before getting my passport stamped. My brothers, at Sleep's frontier and the stripy chest lifted to let me through. I opened the door of 1018 with my own little klooch, and inside our Malenki quarters all was quiet. The P and both being in sleepland, and Mom had laid out on the table my Malenki bit of supper, a couple of lamb ticks of tinned sponge meat with a shive or so of club and butter, a glass of the old Malacco, ho ho ho, the old Malacco with no knives or sithamis or dren crumb in it. How wicked! My brother's innocent milk must always seem to me now. Still, I drank and ate growling, being more hungry than I thought at first, and I got a fruit pie from the larder and tore chunks off it to stuff into my greedy rot. Then I toothed clean and clicked, cleaning out the old rot with my yashik or tongue. Then I went into my own little room or den, easing off my platties as I did so. Here was my bed and my stereo, pride of my Jeesney, and my discs in their cupboard, and banners and flags on the wall, these being like remembrances of my corrective school life since I was 11. Oh, my brothers, each one shining and blazoned with name or number: South, Metro, Core School, Blue, Division, the Boys of Alpha. The little speakers of my stereo were all arranged around the room, on my ceiling, walls, floor, so laying on my bed, slushing the music. I was like netted and meshed in the orchestra. Now what I fancied first tonight was this new violin concerto by the American Jeffrey Plautus, played by Odysseus Corrillos with the Macon, Georgia Philharmonic. So I slid it from where it was neatly filed and switched on and waited. Then, brothers, it came. Oh, bliss, bliss in heaven. I lay all Nagoy to the ceiling, my Gulliver on my rookers on the pillow, Glazzy's closed, rot open in bliss, sluicing the sluice of lovely sounds. Oh, it was gorgeousness and gorgiosity made flesh. The trombones crunch red gold under my bed, and behind my Gulliver, the trumpets three-wise silver flamed, and there by the door, the temps rolling through my guts and out again crunched like candy thunder. Oh, it was a wonder of wonders. And then a bird of like rarest spun heaven metal, or like silvery wine flowing in a spaceship. Gravity, all nonsense now, came to the violin solo above all the other strings, and those strings were like a cage of silk around my bed. Then flute and oboe bored, like worms of like platinum, into the thick, thick coffee, gold and silver. It was in such bliss, my brothers. P and in their bedroom next door had learnt now not to knock on the wall with complaints of what they call noise. I had taught them. Now they would take sleep pills, perhaps knowing the joy I had in my night music. They had already taken them, as I slushing my glazzies tight shut to shut in the bliss that was better than any synth Mesk, Bog, or God, I knew such lovely pictures. There were Vex and Petitsas, both young and starry, lying on the ground screaming for mercy, and I was smacking all over my rot and grinding my boo in their litzos. And there were Devakas ripped and creaking against walls, and I plunging like Schlaga into them. And indeed, when the music, which was one movement only, rose to the top of its big highest tower, then, lying there on my bed with glassies tight shut and rookers behind my gulliver, I broke and spattered and cried, ah, with the bliss of it. So the lovely music lighted to its glowing close. After that, I had lovely Mozart, the Jupiter, and there were new pictures of different littles to be ground and splashed, and it was after this that I thought I would have just one last disc only before crossing the border. And I wanted something starry and strong and very firm, so it was J.S. Bach I had, the Brandenburg Concerto, just for middle and lower strings, and slushing with different bliss than before. I vidied again this name on the paper I had res that night, a long time ago it seemed, in that cottage called home. The name was about a clockwork orange. Listening to the J.S. Bach, I began to pony better what that meant now, and I thought, slushing away to the brown gorgeousness of the starry German master, that I would like to have cock them both harder and rip them to ribbons on their own floor. What? Say, how many pages is this book? I'm on page 39. This book is a little bit over 200, so let's see. Can I make it to page 50 after this chapter? I'm on chapter 4 now. So now they made it home. He's listening to music. They robbed people. They broke into houses. I think they raped like a wife in front of his husband, in front of her husband. Chapter 5 ends on page 52, so I will end at page 52. Sounds really good. And I'll pretty much be 1/4 done throughout the book. So, chapter 4. The next morning I woke up at 8:00 hours. My brothers and I still felt shagged and fagged and fashed and bashed, and my glassies were stuck together, real horror show with sleep glue. I thought I would not go to school. I thought I would have a malinky bit longer in bed, in an hour or two, say, and then get dressed nice and easy, perhaps even having a splash about in the bath, and then brew a pot of real strong horror show chai and make toast for myself, and slushie the radio or read the Gazetta, all on my Adi Naki. And then in the after lunch, I might perhaps, if I still felt like it, iddy off to the old scoldy wall and see what was viriding in that great seat of gloopy, useless learning. Oh, my brothers, I heard my papa grumbling and trampling, and then iddying off to the dye works where he rabbited, and then my mom called in a very respectable galas, as she did now. I was growing up big and strong. It's gone 8, son. You don't want to be late again. So I called back. A bit of my pain in my Gulliver. Leave us be and I'll try to sleep it off, and then I'll be right as Dodgers for this after. I slushie her give a sort of sigh, and she said, I'll put your breakfast in the oven then, son. I got to be off myself now, which was true. There being this law for everybody, not a child, nor with child, nor ill, to go out rabbiting. My mom worked at one of the state marts, as they called them, filling up the shelves with tinned soup and beans and all that cow. So I slushie her clank a plate in the gas oven like, and then she was putting her shoes on and then getting her coat from behind the door and then singing again. Then she said, I'm off now, son, sighing again. Then I'm off now, son. But I let on to be back and sleep in, and then I dozed off, real horror show, and I had a queer and very real sneedy, dreaming for some reason of my drug Georgie. And this Sneedy, he got like very much older and very sharp and hard, and was governing about discipline and obedience, and how all the malkicks under his control had to jump hard at it and throw up the old salute like being in the army. And there was me in the line like the rest, saying yes sir, no sir, and then I viddy clear that Georgie had these stars on his plecos, and he was like a general. And then he brought in old Dim with the whip, and Dim was a lot more starry and gray and had a few zoobies missing, as you could see when he let out his smack, viddying me, and then my droog Georgie said, pointing like at me, that man has filth and cow all over his platties. And it was true. Then I creached, don't hit, please don't, brothers, and started to run, and I was running in like circles, and Dim was after me, smacking his collar off, cracking with the old whip, and each time I got a real horror show tall cock with his whip, there was like a very loud electric bell ringing, and this bell was like sort of a pain too. Then I woke up real scarry, my heart going back, and of course there was really a bell and going brr, and it was our front door bell. I let on that nobody was at home, but this burr still iddied on, and then I heard a galas shouting through the door, come on then, get out. Get out of it. I know you're in bed. I recognized the Galoss right away. It was Galoss of PR Deltoid, a real gloopy Naz, that one. What they called my post-corrective advisor, an overworked vet with hundreds on his books. I shot it right in a Galoss of like pain. I got out of bed and attired myself, oh my brothers, in a very lovely overgrown of like silk, with designs of like great cities all over this overgown. Then I put my nogas into very comfy woolly tufels, combed my luscious glory, and was ready for PR Deltoid. When I opened up, became shambling and looking shagged, a battered old schlappa on his Gulliver, his raincoat filthy. "Oh, Alex boy," he said to me, "I met your mother, yes. She said something about a pain somewhere, hence not at school, yes." "A rather intolerable pain in the head, brother, sir," I said in my gentleman's glass. "I think it should be clear by this afternoon, or certainly by this evening." "Yes," said Pierre Deltoid, "the evening is the great time, isn't it?" "Alex boy, sit," he said, "sit," as though this was his domi and me his guest, as this was his domi, and me his guest. And he sat in this starry rocking chair, my dad's, and began rocking as if that was all he'd come for. I said, "A cup of the old chai, sir. Tea, I mean." "No time," he said, and he rocked, giving me an old glint under frowning brows, as if with all the time in the world. "No time, yes," he said, gloopy. So I put the kettle on, then I said, "To what to do I owe the extreme pleasure? Is anything wrong, sir?" "Wrong," he said, very scory and sly, sort of hunched, looking at me, but still rocking away. Then he caught sight of an advert in the Gazetta, which was on the table, a lovely smacking young Pititsa with her grudies hanging out, to advertise my brothers, the glories of the Jugoslav beaches. Then, after sort of eating her up in 2 swallows, he said, "Why should you think in terms of there being anything wrong? Have you been doing something you shouldn't?" "Yes." "Just a manner of speech," I said, "sir." "Well," said P.R. Deltoid, "it's just a manner of speech from me to you that you watch out, little Alex, because next time, as you very well know, it's not going to be the corrective school anymore. Next time it's going to be the barry place, and all my work ruined. If you have no consideration for your horrible self, you at least might have some for me, who have sweated over you. A big black mark, I tell you in confidence, for every one we don't reclaim. A confession of failure for every one of you that ends up in the stripy hole. I've been doing nothing I shouldn't, sir," I said. "The Millicents have nothing on me, brother, sir, I mean." "Cut out this clever talk about Millicents," said P.R. Deltoid, very weary but still rocking. "Just because the police have not picked you up lately doesn't mean, as you very well know, you've got not been up to some nastiness. There was a bit of a fight last night, wasn't there? There was a bit of shuffling with noshes and bike chains and the like. One of a certain fat boy's friends was ambulanced off late from near the power plant and hospitalized, cut about very unpleasantly. Yes, your name was mentioned. The word has got through to me by the usual channels. Certain friends of yours were named also. There seems to have been a fair amount of assorted nastiness last night. Oh, nobody can prove anything about anybody, as usual, but I'm warning you, little Alex, being a good friend to you as always, the one man in this sore and sick community who wants to save you from yourself." "I appreciate all that, sir," I said very sincerely. "Yes, you do, don't you? You sort of sneer. Just watch it, that's all. We know more than you think, little Alex," then he said in a glass of great suffering, but still rocking away. "What gets into you all? We studied the problem, and we've been studying it for damn well near a century, yes, but we got no farther with our studies. You got a good home here, good loving parents. You got not too bad of a brain, some devil that crawls inside of you. Nobody's got anything on me, sir," I said. "I've been out of the rookers of Millicents for a long time now." "That's just what worries me," sighed Pierre Deltoid. "A bit too long for a time to be healthy. You're about due now by my reckoning. That's why I'm warning you, little Alex, to keep your handsome young proboscis out of the dirt. Yes, do I make myself clear? As an unmuddied lake, sir," I said. "Clear as an azure sky of deepest summer. You can rely on me, sir." And I gave him a nice Zuby smile. But when Ookie Deeded and I was making this very strong pot of chai, I grinned to myself over this vesh that P.R. Deltoid and his droogs worried about. All right, I do bad. What was he crasting and toecocks and carves with the brifta and the old in and out, and if I get love at it, well, too bad for me. Oh, my little brothers, and you can't turn a country with every Chelovic comporting himself in my manner of the night. So if I get love at it, and it's there months in the mesto, So if I get loved and it's 3 months in this mess though, and another 6 in that, and then as PR Deltoid so kindly warns next time, in spite of the great tenderness of my summer's brothers, it's the great unearthly zoo itself. While I say fair but a pity, my lords, because I just cannot bear to shut in. My endeavors shall be in such feature as stretches out its snowy and lily-white arms to me before the notch overtakes or the blood spatters its final chorus in twisted meadow and smashed glass on its final chorus. Or no, on its final chord here. My endeavors shall be in such feature as stretches out its snowy and lily-white arms to me before the notch overtakes or the blood spatters its final course in twisted metal and smashed glass on the high road to not get loved it again, which is fair speeching. But brothers, this biting of their toenails over what is the cause of badness is what turns me into a fine laughing male chick. They don't go into what is the cause of goodness, so why of the other shop? If luties are good, that's because they like it, and I wouldn't interfere with their pleasures, and so of the other shop. And I was patronizing the other shop. More badness is of the self, the one, the you or me on our Audinakis, and that self is made by old Bog or God, and is his great pride and radosity. But the not self cannot have the bad, meaning they of the government and the judges and the schools cannot allow the bad because they cannot allow the self. And it is not our modern history, my brothers, the story of brave Malenki selves fighting these big machines. I am serious with you, brothers, over this, but what I do because I like to do. So now, this smiling winter morning, I drink this very strong chai with Malacca and spoon after spoon after spoon of sugar, me having a sladky tooth, and I dragged out of the oven the breakfast my poor old mom had cooked for me. It was an egg fried, that and no more, but I made toast and ate egg and toast and jam, smacking away at it while I read the Gazetta. The Gazetta was the usual about ultra-violence and bank robberies and strikes and footballers and making everybody paralytic with fright by threatening not playing next Saturday if they not get higher wages. Naughty Malchickwicks as they were. Also, there were more space trips and bigger stereo TV screens and offers of free packets of soap flakes in exchange for the labels on soup tins. Amazing offer for 1 week only, which made me schmeck. All there was a bullshit big article on modern youth, meaning me, so I gave the old bow, grinning like Bizumni. By some very clever bald Chalovek, I read this with care, my brothers slurping away at the old chai cup after task after chassa, crunching my long ticks of black toast dipped in jammy wham and eggy wag. This learned Vex said the usual veshes about no parental discipline, as he called it, and the shortage of real horror show teachers who would lambaste bloody beggary out of their innocent poops and make them go boo-hoo-hoo for mercy. All this was gloopy and made me schmeck, but it was like nice to go on knowing one was making the news all the time. Oh, my brothers, every day there was something about modern youth, but the best vesh that ever had in the old Gazetta was by some starry pop and a doggy collie who said that in his considered opinion, and he was governing as a man of bog, it was the devil that was abroad and was like ferreting his way into like young innocent flesh, and it was the adult world that could take the responsibility for this with their wars and bombs and nonsense, so that was all right. So we knew what he talked of, being a god man, so we young innocent malkicks could take no blame, right? When I got a couple of razzes on my full innocent stomach, I started to get out day platties from my wardrobe, turning the radio on. There was a music playing, a very nice Malenki string quartet, My Brothers by Claudius Bergman, one that I knew well. I had to have a schmeck though, thinking of what I'd viddied once in one of these little articles on modern youth about how modern youth would be better off if a lively appreciation of the arts could be encouraged. Great music, it said, and the great poetry would quieten modern youth down and make modern youth more civilized. Civilize my syphilized yarbles. Music always sort of sharpened me up, oh my brothers, and made me feel like old Bog himself, ready to make with the old Donner and Blitzen and have Vex and Batistas creaching away in my ha-ha power. And when I cheested up my Litzo and Ruckers a bit and done dressing, my day platties were like student wear, the old blue pantalones with sweater with A for Alex. I thought here at least was time to iddy off to the disc boutique and cut her to my pockets being full of pretty Polly. To see about this long promised and long ordered stereo Beethoven No. 9, the choral symphony that is, recorded on master stroke by the Esham Sinfonia under Al Muhawir. So out I went, brothers. The day was very different from the night. The night belonged to me and my drogues and all the rest of the nadsats and the starry bourgeois lurked indoors drinking in the gloopy worldcast, but the day was for the starry ones and their Always seemed to be more roses or Millicents about during the day, too. I got the autobus from the corner and rode to Center, and then I walked back to Taylor Place, and there was the disc boutique I favored with my inestimable custom. Oh, my brothers. It had the gloopy name of Melodia, but it was a real horror show mesto and scory most times at getting the new recordings. I walked in and the only other customers were two young Batistas sucking away at ice sticks, and this mark was dead cold winter and sort of shuffling through the new pop discs. Johnny Burnaway, Stash Crow, the Mixers, lay quiet a while with Ed and Id Molotov, and all the rest of that cow. These two Batistas couldn't have been more than 10, and they too, like me it seemed, evidently had decided to take a morning off from the old Scollywall. They saw themselves, you could see, as real grown-up Devatkas already, what with the old hip swing when they saw your faithful narrator, brothers in paddled Grudies and red alt plosh on their goobers. I went up to the counter, making with the polite Zuby smile at old Andy behind, always polite himself, always helpful, a real horror show type of Vivek, though bald and very, very thin. He said, "Aha, I know what you want, I think. Good news has arrived." And with like big conductors, rookers beating time, he went to get it. The two young Batistas started giggling, as they will at that age, and I gave them a light cold glassy. Andy was back real scory, waving the great shiny white sleeve of the ninth, which had on it, brothers, the frowning beetle-like thunder bottle Litzo of Ludwig van himself. "Here," said Andy, "shall we give it the trial spin?" But I wanted it back home on my stereo two slushy on my Audi Naki, greedy as hell. I fumbled out the dang to pay, and one of the little Batistas said, "Who you gotten, Bratty? What biggie? What only?" These young Devachkas had their own like way of governing. The Heavens 17, Luke Stern, Goggly Gogo, and both giggled, rocking and hippie. Then an idea hit me and made me near fall over with the anguish and ecstasy of it. Oh, my brothers, so I could not breathe for near 10 seconds. I recovered and made with my new, clean Zubies and said, "What you got back home, little sisters, to play your fuzzy warbles on?" Because I could vidi the discs they were buying were these teeny pop veshes. I bet you got little safe, tiny portable like picnic spinners. And they sort of pushed their lower lips out at that. "Come with Uncle," I said, "and hear all proper. Hear angel trumpets and devil trombones. You are invited." And I like belled. They giggled again, and one said, "Oh, but we're so hungry." "Oh, but we could so eat," the other said. "Yeah, she can say that, can't she, just?" So I said, "Eat with Uncle, name your place." Then they viddied themselves as real sophistos, which I was like pathetic, and started talking in big lady galosses about Ritz and the Bristol and the Hilton and second Restaurante Gran Turco. But I stopped that with "Follow Uncle," and I led them to the pasta parlor just round the corner and let them fill their innocent young littles on spaghetti and sausages and cream puffs and banana splits and hot chalk sauce till I near stick with the side of it. Aye, brothers, lunching but frugally off a cold ham slice and a growling dollop of chili. These two young Batistas were much alike. Though not sisters, they had the same ideas, or lack of, and the same color hair, a like-dyed strawy. Well, they would grow up real today. Today I would make a day of it. No school this after lunch, but education certain. Alex as teacher. Their names, they said, were Marty and Sonieta, but zoomy enough and in the height of their childish fashion, so I said, Righty, Marty and Sonieta, time for the big spin, come." When we were outside on the cold street, they thought they would not go by autobus, oh no, but by taxi, so I gave them humor, though with the real horror show and grin, and I called a taxi from the rank near Center. The driver, a starry whiskery Vec and very stained plaid, said, "No tearing up now, no nonsense with them seats, just reupholstered they are." I quieted his gloopy fears, and off he spun on Municipal Flat Block 18. These two bold little Batistas giggling and whispering. So, to cut all short, we arrived, on my brothers, and I led the way up to 10-8, and they panted and smacked all the way up. And then they were thirsty, they said, so I unlocked the treasure chest in my room and gave them 10-year-old Devatkas a real horror show Scotchman apiece, though well filled with sneezy pins and needle soda. They sat on my bed, yet unmade, and legs swung, smacking and peating their highballs while I spun their little pathetic Malenki disc through my stereo, like peating some sweet scented kid's drink that wasn't, like very beautiful and lovely and costly gold goblets. But they went oh and said swoony and hilly and other weird slovels that were the height of fashion in that youth group. While I spun this cow for them, I encouraged them to drink and have another, and they were nothing loath. Oh, my brothers, so by the time their pathetic pop discs had been twice spun each, they were too Honey Nose, sung by Ike Yard, and night after day after night, moaned by two horrible Yarbolus-like eunuchs whose names I forget. They were getting near the pitch of like young Petit's hysterics, what with jumping over my bed and me in the room with them. What was actually done that afternoon there is no need to describe. Brothers, as you may easily guess all, those twos were unplatting and smacking fit to crack in no time at all, and they thought it the bolshiest fun to viddy old uncle standing there all nagoing panhandled, squirting the hypodermic like some bear doctor, then giving myself the old jab of growling jungle cat secretion in the rooker. Then I pulled the lovely ninth out of his sleeve so that Ludwig Van was now a nagoy too, and I set the needle hissing on to the last movement, which was all bliss. There it was then, the bass strings like governing away from under my bed at the rest of the orchestra, and then the male human gallas coming in and telling them all to be joyful, and then the lovely blissful tune all about joy being a glorious spark like of heaven, and then I felt the old tigers leap in me, and then I leaped on two young Petitses. This time they thought nothing fun and stopped creaching with high mirth and had to submit to the strange and weird desires of Alexander the Large, which, with the ninth in the hypo jab, were Chudesny and Zamachat and very demanding, oh my brothers, but they were both very, very drunken and could hardly feel very much. When the last movement had gone round for the second time with all the banging and creaching about joy, 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 then these two young Petites were not acting the big lady sophisto no more. They were like waking up to what was being done to their Malenki persons and saying that they wanted to go home, and like I was a wild beast. They looked like they had been in some big bitka, and indeed they had, and were all bruised and pouty. Well, if they would not go to school, they must still have their education. Education they had. They were creaching and going ow, ow, ow as they put their platties on, and they were like punching me with their teeny fists as I lay there dirty and agore in their fair shagged and fagged on the bed. This young Sonieta was creaching, beast and hateful animal, filthy horror, so I let them get their things together and get out, which they did, talking about how the roses should be got onto me and all that cow. Then they were going down the stairs and I dropped off to sleep, still the old joy, 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 joy crashing and howling away. This guy's an animal. I'm on chapter 5, it's page 52, and what is this, like my third book that I read so far? So, I'm not sure what time it is. This is like a 40-minute video, so this book is pretty wild, man. From the back of it, it says, A Clockwork Orange is a frightening fable about good and evil and the meaning of human freedom. And when the state undertakes to reform Alex to redeem him, the novel asks, at what cost? Wow, so he's still young and he's fucking doing all this scandalous shit, man. So I think that we're gonna see what's gonna happen in this book. A Clockwork Orange. Pretty good, my throat's hurting. Peace, y'all. Hope you enjoy. Hope I don't mumble too much. Thank you, God, for keeping us safe. Peace.